up? Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you some of the books that have changed my life in 2020. And it feels weird to say that because I don't know, is that cool? Is that a cool thing to talk about? These books that I'm about to talk about, they've changed my life in the sense that like they've changed my mindset, my attitude for life, like for health, wellness, just overall changed my life. In one of my last videos, I talked a little bit about how at the beginning of the summer I fell into a little bit of a dark place and I was having a really hard time pulling myself out of it. But one of the things that I did that started to kind of pull me out and feel like motivated, have a zest for life again, was reading books. To make this short and sweet, I'm just gonna go in the order that I read the books, just kind of like briefly explain kind of what the book is about and kind of explain like how it applies to me, why it resonated with me, how it changed my life. Okay, just want to mention, a couple of these books, maybe more than half of these books, I actually did read like on my phone. Like I bought them in the bookstore or Kindle or things like that. So I will insert a picture so that you know what I'm talking about, and then I'll hold the other ones up. First two books that I read that got me actually really excited to start reading these types of books were Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing by Rachel Hollis. I am sure you've heard of them. I'm sure you've heard of her. There's a little bit of controversy about whether she's a good person or not. I don't know, but I do know that I liked what she said. It started me off on a good path of like this new positive life, positive mindset I'm trying to adopt. So I don't know. So these two books really introduced me to the idea of gratitude. I knew what gratitude meant. Everyone always says like be grateful for the things that you have, and even on your bad days like look at the positive side, and I try to think that I'm like that. I'm pretty optimistic. I really don't like negativity and I try to avoid it as much as possible. I really learned like how to just be grateful for the little things. Like there can be things like I'm so grateful that I have a fridge full of food right now, that I have in-unit laundry, that I have clean drinking water, things like that, of course. But then there's also the little things. Like sometimes I'm grateful for like just some like silly little moment with Chris and I. Like it literally can be anything, but you really just want to focus more on that and stop thinking so much in the negatives. So she also pushes a lot about like women, empowering women, and she runs her own companies. I think a few companies, they've gotten quite big, and so she's a big advocate for like working for what you want, not letting anybody tell you that you can't do something, proving them wrong, that kind of thing. Another thing that she said that really resonated with me was instead of saying, why is this happening to me? You say, why is this happening for me? And that really resonated with me because you can just like flip the narrative and decide that it's not happening to you. It's not all about you, like wow, that kind of thing. It's like, why is this happening for me? Is there a message I need to understand? And one thing that I like that she does, she uses the 5 to Thrive, and basically that's just like her daily goals that she accomplishes to like be her best self, and she recommends everybody else do it. I just started her challenge the last 90 days. It's the last 90 days of the year. Usually this is the time of year where everybody starts slacking and then says like, oh, it's the holidays, screw it, like I'll just be back on top of my shit January 1st. But she really is challenging you to stay on it, create these habits now or keep these habits now. So she does some things like drinking half your body weight in water in ounces every day, moving your body for 30 minutes a day, waking up an hour earlier than you need to, writing down 5 things every single day that you're grateful for, that kind of thing. So I really like that because it made me feel like super intentional about my mornings. I was waking up, I had like a clear thing to do that took me like 5 to 10 minutes. And then at the end of the day, I opened the app and I just like check off all the things that I did, and it's super fun. It makes me feel really good. Another 2 books that I found, again by the same author, Louise Hay. She has a book called You Can Heal Your Life, and from that book I found Loving Yourself to Great Health. So basically she goes through and gives you like very specific affirmations that you can use to change pretty much anything in your life that you're not liking, or to like reinforce anything in your life that you are liking. Basically create the life that you want. That was super powerful to me because she talks about literally you think it, you say it, it's yours. And that has a lot to do with the law of attraction manifestation thing. I don't know if you've heard anything about that, but that's something that I've really been interested in the past couple of years. But basically, don't say anything you don't wish to create. So like, I love myself, I accept myself, I approve of myself, especially on the days where you don't feel that at all. She also made me learn that even on those days where I feel like that it's not true. I do still love myself, and there are so many things to look at, like whether I don't like the way my body looks. I switch the narrative to I love my body. I may not love the way that it looks, but I appreciate everything that it's done for me, and I appreciate the fact that I'm still here, I'm strong, I'm active, and learn to think about things in a very different way, which was really, really nice. She also talked a lot about how childhood trauma really affects your body physically, which was pretty interesting to learn about. And like I said, she gives very step-by-step affirmations, like look at yourself in the eyes, in the mirror every day, and say these things to yourself. If you see negativity popping up in your head, you just replace it with like, I approve of myself, I approve of myself, trying to like counteract things. And that sounds super, super cheesy, and I get it. It was so hard for me to do the first time, but now I do it every single morning when I wake up. I look in the mirror and I say a whole bunch of things pretty much as fast as I can. Look myself in the eyes, try to feel it as much as possible, just try to start my day off right. And then loving yourself to great health is pretty much the same thing, but she actually had 2 people join on with her. We talk a lot about that kind of stuff, and also they get a little bit deeper into like dealing with the mental and physical things. So that's been really interesting for me. They do talk a little bit about dietary choices, but it's more from a place of like, I love my body, so I'm feeding it this, and not necessarily just like food is fuel or these foods are bad for your body, so don't eat them, but just more of like listening to your body, honoring your body and what it wants in that moment. So really appreciated that. Okay, another book. This one is Brave New Medicine by Cynthia Lee. This one I really liked. It introduced me to the world of functional medicine. I've read about it a little bit, but I didn't really know like what I was reading. In all honesty, I've been struggling this past year with this MS diagnosis. I'm in denial, if I'm being completely honest. I'm in denial that the modern medicine world knows pretty much nothing about this and other autoimmune diseases. They basically just say like, oh, yep, this is what you have for the rest of your life. Here's some medication that may or may not make you miserable. Good luck. Yeah, so I am pretty in denial about the whole thing, and I've had this gut feeling to start looking into like natural and holistic ways of like healing my body. So functional medicine doctors, they deal with like the root causes of things. So they run a lot of tests that your regular doctor wouldn't run. They talk to you a lot more, they ask a lot more questions, they get really deep into your life, and then they choose the right tests to run. Cynthia Lee, she's a doctor, and then she started to see the flaws in modern medicine and how like she gets 7 minutes to see a person, and it's pretty much like no eye contact, just typing at a screen. There's really no like connection, getting to know the person, what's wrong with them. You slap on like a prescription, you laugh in the face of people who give you suggestions of what could be wrong with them, you ignore their symptoms, things like that, and she was kind of fed up with it. And then it hit her, she got really sick with a couple chronic illnesses. She's pretty much bedridden for a while. It took her a few years, but she started to figure things out that worked for her in the realm of like spirituality, root causes like bone broth, finding your chi, inner knowing. She'd sit and meditate, and just all kinds of like natural ways to heal yourself, get yourself to like the rest and recover state instead of constant fight or flight. So that was a very interesting concept for me, learning about fight or flight and rest and recover. I feel like I've been in fight or flight for a really, really long time, and I put myself there with like my anxiety and my impatience and all of those kinds of things. So I've been really practicing, because of her, how to keep my body in like the rest and recovery mode so that it has the time, the energy to focus on healing my body and healing what's been going a little bit haywire. So that was definitely a big takeaway for me with Brave New Medicine. Okay, now another book for me. This one was just like a little bit more of a fun book. I actually have a hard copy of this one. I love Ashley Graham. I love everything that she is. This is called, oops, sorry, that's terrible with the ring light. This is called A New Model. I love her. I love everything she is. I also really want to be in this kind of world. I really want to be in the entertainment industry. I want to act, I want to model, all of that kind of stuff. So I really wanted to see the world from her perspective, get to know like her story a little bit more. That's what she does. She shares her story, and then she also talks a lot about how like she got to where she is now, and like the struggles that she went through. And then she talks a lot about like the representation issues in the industry, which I'm sure we all know about. She really did like pave the way for the plus size community. I say I did this because I'm not sure if that's like the appropriate term to use. I don't think it is, because people don't like being categorized that way, but that's what it's called right now. So also really opened my eyes to the flaws of the industry and like what's still missing. A really interesting thing that I learned from her, actually, I never really understood why you couldn't find larger sizes in most stores, or larger sizes weren't more readily available or aren't more readily available. She actually mentioned that it's extremely difficult because when you're in a larger body, larger bodies are a lot more diverse than like straight sizes, which is the typical size that you happen to see in most stores. Some people may have larger arms, larger breasts, larger stomachs, thighs, butts, calves, you know what I mean? Like, it's different from every single person. So if you want to make clothing to fit every woman, they're just gonna do the same old frumpy thing so that they can make sure they check off all the boxes and it can fit all these women. But then we have all these women who are sitting there saying like, why is this so tight on my arms? Or why is this so big here? Why doesn't it fit here? And like, it's a mess, and they really need to work at figuring out how to find a solution for that, because it really, really sucks. I am not in the plus sizes, but I do still have a hard time trying to figure out, I'm sure most people relate, it's extremely hard to find clothing that fits you perfectly. Either it's like too loose here, it's too big there, like it's just a mess shopping. So I can only imagine if you have even less access to sizes that actually fit you, like how much more difficult it might be. So this is definitely a really eye-opening book, and also a fun read. Really love her, she's awesome. So highly recommend that one. Okay. 2 more books. Another one that I'm in the middle of. I'm sure you've heard of it. Everybody's heard of it. Everybody's recommended this book to me. Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I am only like halfway through right now, so I don't have like a lot to say about it. It's your typical like woman empowering story, really learning like where she was dissatisfied in life, figuring out how to become satisfied, taking risks for her happiness and things like that. And it's definitely an inspiring story, but again, don't have a whole lot to say right now just because I am just only halfway through it. The last books that I want to talk about is on my phone. It's called Mind Over Medicine by Lissa Rankin. I'm in the middle of that one right now, and I'm really, really liking it. It's very eye-opening to me. It's letting me take a break from thinking about food as medicine, because though I do agree that like food and things like that can definitely be a huge factor in your health, I don't think it's the only thing. And I also think that the stress about your food choices, the guilt that you might feel, the anxiety that you might feel when trying to think about food choices, I feel like that's way worse on your body. That's putting you in that fight or flight mode that you don't want to be in. So that's why I've been trying to learn that it's so much more important to really like enjoy your food. I'm trying to like kick my disordered eating habits for good, and I feel like that's one of the only ways that I'm actually going to be able to heal myself. So it's been a big priority for me. So reading this book was a nice break from food. So this is a lot about like the power of the mind and how basically like your mind can be what's making you sick. This is another story about a doctor who realized that modern medicine is very, very flawed, and she started to feel very dissatisfied with the service and care that she was giving because it was all that she was able to do. So she decided to take things into her own hand, do more research, and now I believe she's running her own practice as well. But I'm only halfway through the book, so it talks a lot about how like the placebo effect so far, about like the simple belief that you're healing, or the nocebo effect, which is like the belief that something's gonna happen, something's gonna make you sick. For example, there are like clinical trials where somebody was told, okay, you're gonna take this medicine and it's gonna make you sick, but they gave them like a sugar pill and they actually got sick. It's like a very interesting thing about how like your mind convinces your body what to do. She also talked about like, for example, another woman, she's the healthiest woman in the world. She was like drinking all her water, taking supplements, eating so healthy and so clean. And so when she was presenting with all these horrible symptoms and the doctor couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, she sat her down and asked her about like her personal life, her home life, and found out that her husband was very abusive. And she built up the courage, she ditched her husband, moved to Santa Fe, California, and all of her symptoms disappeared. And it just really goes to show that like you can be the healthiest person in the world, but if your mind is not taken care of, it doesn't matter. That's all I have to say for today. Highly recommend finding books for you that you're interested in. It doesn't even have to be books like this. I just wanted to kind of give you some books that I found in this particular range. I think reading is super important. It's really good for your brain and your imagination and all that kind of stuff. Hope I gave you some interesting things to think about, maybe some books to look into. I will have all the links for the books down in the description box below. Yeah, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!